Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to you, Katie.
All right, sounds good. Hi, everybody. I'm Kati Begen, and this is Daniel Suvanto. And we are going to be talking about how to structure your weekly content to maximize effectiveness. If you wouldn't mind in the chat, just throwing in there what your current role is. That way we can kind of gauge it to what you would like. We teach high school, but what we're going to be talking about is effective at the higher level as well. So let's take it away. Oh, where's my cursor? Oh, there you go. So I saw one of my student teachers do this, and I thought it was so easy as a little pulse check. But if you could just share what image best describes how you're feeling right now. So you can just put the number or you can put the animal. So happy, content, calm would be number 1. Sleepy would be number 2. Wise and curious would be number 3. If you want to just pop that in the chat as well, and we can kind of just get a little pulse check. Amanda says 2, Robin says 3, Veronica 2. Yeah, we're the second to last slot of the day, so I understand a lot of 2s. All right, keep those coming because we're watching the chat on the side. So just a little bit about us before we get started. We do work at a high school in Fresno, which is in California, and our school is a little different. So we're considered a wall-to-wall pathway. So our students from freshman year to senior year, they get their A through G requirements, but they also do technical skills and they get certifications. So there's 2 pathways. Mine is MASH, which is the medical pathway. So students can get trained to be a CNA, a pharmacy tech, or a physical therapy assistant. And then Daniel works in iData. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, so a lot of my students still, or all of my students still go into either welding, automotive, heavy truck, manufacturing, construction. So essentially they get certifications along with their high school diploma.
Yeah, so our students are different. They do have to apply to be here, and then they do have to meet certain specifications to stay. So good behavior, good attendance, good grades. And so we do fully understand that the school is different than like a traditional high school. We both teach biology, so we teach the same content about 90% of the time. 10% of the time we do our like pathway specific stuff. So like I'll do a medical project and he'll do a project based on like engineering design and that sort of stuff. So they're just a little bit of a background so you understand that we're not a traditional high school, but we do have teens, so they're kind of all the same. So our aim was to create a weekly sequence so that each day has a theme. And that way, when students come in the door, they know what to expect. We all know that students really thrive in structure, even if they don't want to. They do need to have some level of structure. And so we wanted to make something that took the stress off of us as teachers, making the lessons, and took the stress off of them having to figure out some sort of new sequence each day. So that was our aim. And we've been working together for about 5 years. And so we wanted to create something that make the transition of building these lessons a little bit smoother while incorporating stuff from all different components with the pathway. So like I said, the aim and the purpose are pretty synonymous, but we wanted to create that consistency for us and for them. And then it's turning out that we spend less time explaining things because the students know what to expect. So we are earning some time back, which has really been effective in time management. The students know what to expect. And so they know that they can't use that excuse of, I don't know what we're doing. And so we're spending less time reiterating the expectations. And it's been less stressful to plan our lessons because we do teach almost the exact same lessons per day.
Yeah, and so basically kind of the overview of what we're trying to do is we teach freshmen, and it's essentially just a normal biology class. And so we want each week to be kind of a standalone week. And we realize this is not possible in every content, every grade, but we try to make each week kind of a standalone week with whatever curriculum we're teaching that week. And so we try to make Mondays always kind of the same as, this Monday is always kind of the same theme as every other Monday. The Tuesdays are the same as the Tuesdays. The Wednesdays are the same as the Wednesdays. The content changes, but essentially we try to keep what we're doing on each one of those days very, very similar, so that our students, they know what to expect when they roll into our class on a Wednesday. So that's essentially what we're trying to do. It's loosely based around something called the 5E model. 5E model has been around for a long time. It's an inquiry style of teaching and learning. Essentially, it starts at engage, and so we engage the students with our content. Then we take some time on the 5E model. We realize, though, that random stuff happens. Maybe there's a rally this Friday, or maybe it's a Monday holiday, and so we do essentially edit it. Seems like every week something comes up, but essentially we always try to go back to this model, kind of day in, day out.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. The internet cut out on one computer, so we were nervous that it cut off.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it might have froze up for a minute, but
Okay.
Still good to go. Okay, cool. So essentially, this is what we see. Hold on, yeah. Well, this is essentially what we do every week. So Mondays, wow, I spelled engagement. We essentially we do some sort of lecture, some sort of text, some sort of like short video to get them like engaged in the actual like content. And then essentially throughout those middle 3 days, we get them to use what we learned on Monday in some sort of deeper way. So sometimes it's labs, sometimes it's class discussions, independent research, sometimes they're doing group projects, but those 3 middle days are essentially days where they use what they learned on Monday to take it a few steps deeper. Okay, so yeah, essentially on Monday we introduce it, Tuesday they explore it, Wednesday they have to explain it, Thursday we refine that, and then on Friday we try to assess that. So kind of the next few slides we'll kind of go through these a little bit deeper, but essentially that's what we do every single week. Realize, especially for like our higher ed people in the house, this might not be as something that you could use, because sometimes college courses are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or once a week. So take it for what it's worth, but this is kind of a traditional 5-day-a-week setup for us. So yeah, essentially on Monday we do that engage piece. Oftentimes it's like lecture heavy. Sometimes we'll use articles to teach, but it's as professional educators, we just use whatever media that we find best to teach the content. And so it is kind of sometimes a little sit and get. Sometimes it's essentially just like giving the oftentimes it's like vocab and defining words and like just getting them to like the basics that they need for the week. Because on Tuesday, essentially what we'll do is like we teach science, so we'll do a lot of labs. We'll do independent research, class discussions, gallery walks. So essentially on Tuesday, they explore what we learned on Monday. On Wednesday and Thursday, essentially, we kind of take it a step further. And essentially the goal for us by the end of Thursday is they have a really, really deep understanding of what we kind of presented to them on Monday. So Monday is a bit more surface level, and then we kind of just take it deeper and deeper and deeper as the week goes on.
Yeah, and I wanted to call out something on Monday. If you are, you could use this at any level, but News ELA is a really great site that our district pays for. It's pretty cost efficient though if you buy it individually, but it levels your text so that you can give the text appropriate for your student. So like we have a lot of English learners. We can either give it to them in their native language, or we can lower the Lexile level so that they can read it effectively at their level, and it doesn't look any different. So they make it look pretty identical, like surface level. You would not be able to tell the difference in the 2 articles. So this has been a really great resource for us because we can scaffold the students appropriately, which is what we always try and do. We try and support all of our students, but it can be difficult sometimes. But News ELA has been a really great resource.
So yeah, that's essentially our week kind of at a glance. On Friday, Friday is kind of an interesting day. I think we teach, I don't know if you like look back at like what we teach. We teach biology. She teaches more of like health kind of centered biology, and I teach more of industrial centered biology. She doesn't have a problem with people turning in work. None of my students turn in work because they're essentially all boys. But the number one reason why high school students fail classes is because they essentially just don't turn in the work. It's not that they didn't do it. It's not that they don't know it. It's not that they're lazy or whatever. Like they just literally don't turn in the work. And so what we've done, and we also like our site has also been really hitting us hard on doing common formative assessments. And so what we came up with is every single Friday, no matter what, whether it's a rally or a short day or whatever, we do a 10-question quiz. It's just like we just use Google Forms. It's self-graded.
And we use the same quiz.
And we use the exact same quiz. And so essentially what we do is on Friday, they need to take this 10-question quiz. And for me personally, what that prevents is it prevents a student from just like not turning in work all week. So they at least have something in that I can grade. They're not allowed to leave my room without turning in this quiz. There's pros and cons to 10-question quizzes or multiple choice in general. I get that, but essentially it forces them to turn something in. So every Friday we're able to assess them. Oftentimes though, that won't take the whole period, the whole 50 minutes. And so what we do is we use the remainder of that time to do any other work that they didn't finish. Yeah, a lot of times our students are like working jobs or have brothers and sisters. And so it's just a good time to have them do the space to do like those extra works. And they can't make the excuse like, oh, I didn't have time for homework, because they have that baked in time on Friday. So that's essentially our week at a glance.
Yeah, and on Friday, we fully understand that not every site is able to do makeup work time or meet your needs time. We're very supported at our site because the results show that our students are successful. The grades are good. The students can explain the content when asked. And so we do get a little bit more freedom than I think at a traditional site would. And I like that we actually do 2 different methods with our Friday quiz. So I do open assignment. They can use anything that they worked on Monday through Thursday on their 10-question quiz. And we write the quiz questions, so it's not coming from a test bank where they could just Google something. So they really are having to work to answer these pretty intense questions for most weeks. Sometimes they're a little bit easier. And then Daniel, he'll do a traditional quiz style but they can redo the quiz. So they can't use their assignments on the quiz, but they can redo it. And ironically, we get pretty much the same results. So we have very different students. We have very different methods, but we're getting effective, similar results, which I always find is really interesting. So our evidence, we're working on strengthening it. But from our perspective, the teacher stress level is significantly reduced. We're not having to reinvent the wheel every week. We essentially have these, structures that we just plug in new content, plug in new lessons under the same theme. And so the style lesson is clear and it's predictable. And I've had whole class discussions with my students, and they really enjoy that our class is not stressful. They're learning a lot and they are working hard, but they have lower anxiety because they know what to expect from us in terms of what the lesson's like, what they're being graded on. And so it's been really beneficial for us. And I think we're going to continue it and try and gauge our effectiveness a little bit better as we continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it just takes the ambiguity out of things too.
Yeah.
Like I never have a student saying, oh, I didn't know we had a quiz today, because
they know
every Friday that's just how it is.
And they used to complain about Mondays being text heavy, but they don't complain as much anymore because they get it now. We're going to be doing something really text dependent or class discussions on these days. And so they know what to expect. And so they're not focused on stressing out anymore. They're just focused on getting the work done. And they know that if they work really hard Monday through Thursday, they can kind of have a smooth day on Friday. They do their quiz, they get hopefully an A, and then move on. And it's been really nice for stress levels on both parties. So we just want to take a little pause. Are there any questions? And you can say them verbally, or you can put them in the chat. We are going to go into the SWOT model for this, but if there's any questions that you have right now, we can answer those.
I might have a quick question. This is Aziz. So I'm just curious, is it like is this model implemented in entire school, or is it only your boss, like I mean only on your classes, I mean specifically on you?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's only with our classes for now. But between us, we cover every freshman on campus. So there's only two
Okay.
biology classes and it's a required course. So we do
Okay.
meet about 360 students with this
Good to
model.
know. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is very useful for us. I'm college instructor, but what something interesting happened recently. I had communication with my kids they're in high school with their principal, asking them if they can work on something like this to make it to implement something like this. But I didn't mention specific this model, but something which will be constant and more organized. Then it will reduce students' stress and like everything, and makes more effective to them to be ready to class and or study or be ready what will be knowing what will be next and how to be ready for the next class, etc. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, of course. And I think that if like our whole school adopted this model, it wouldn't be as effective as we'd like to think, because imagine you have 7 classes and you're reading or doing videos or really heavy content every Monday. There might be kind of a burnout. So
Yeah, as minimum thinking about the organizing something, it's like just putting something in the
yeah,
which will be constant, maybe in different pattern, not just huge demonstrated, but anyway, some sort of organization should be in that week, will be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do think, yeah, you can definitely get burnout or people do things too often, but yeah, I think whatever it is, just make sure that
Any
it's
sort of
consistent. Yeah.
That's this. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
We're just so clear.
Yeah, we did a good job. So we are going to go into the SWOT model. So if you haven't seen this before, it's just a really nice way to break down how effective your model is. And so it starts off with strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so we tried to be very unbiased as much as we could as we go through this. So the strengths in this model has been creating consistency for teachers and students. As students go, our students have 7 periods and they are not easy classes. So being able to take some of that stress off of them has been really nice for them and for us, because we know what to expect when we're planning our lessons. And we plan our lessons together about 90% of the time. So I know that maybe Daniel's taking on week 2 and I'm taking on week 3. I already know what systems we need to put in place and I can just kind of plug in the content. Students understand that if they work hard Monday through Thursday, Friday is pretty easy. I have a policy in my classroom. We do the we do the warm up and then a mini class discussion. I put the quiz in, and then as it comes in, as they finish the quiz, I put in the grade right then. So they leave class knowing what their up-to-date grade is before the weekend. And that's really helpful with students who have grade checks for sports, or maybe they're in trouble with parents. They know exactly what grade they have before the weekend. I'm not grading stuff over the weekend. That's also really beneficial. And then, students, they thrive in structured environments. I mean, that's why models like behavioral models like CHAMPS or Time to Teach are effective, because it's all about consistency and structure. So they really hate it sometimes, but they do thrive in it. I think they're just being teenagers and saying that they hate things. and it's a nice opportunity to check in with students. So we're really big on building relationships with our students and making sure that they know it's about growth and trying new things. So on Friday, we'll do the warm up, do a little mini class discussion, the quiz, enter those grades in, and then we have about 30 minutes to check in with students. Maybe they're at risk, maybe they came in with their hood on and their head down, and now we can have that time to check in while everybody else is making up work for our class or for another class, because they are really busy. Our school is very high level, and so they do have a lot of work they have to complete. So it's been a really great opportunity to build those relationships. Now, the weakness is, it's not always cut and dry. So sometimes there's testing last minute, like with state testing, maybe they had to get pulled out because they were absent, or there's all these different things. Sick days, when we're out and making a sub assignment, I'm not going to have my sub running a lab. That's not fair to them. Field trips, we have a lot of different field trips and clubs and things where kids are off campus. So that can make it difficult to stick to the structure of the 5E and the Monday through Friday model. Is not always doable. Sometimes the content is really difficult to break up into 1 week segments. So in biology, we try and make it like a story, so that students understand it a little bit better and maybe have a better connection to it. But sometimes the content is maybe a 1-day content, or sometimes it's a 2-week content. And so it is difficult to break up sometimes. Like teaching DNA is pretty lengthy, but we try and chunk it in a way that is effective. It just can be difficult. Another weakness is finding text that is engaging for kids. That is hard. We try and use a lot of literacy in science because our school is really hitting that heavily, which is great. And we're all for having literacy in the classroom, but it can be difficult to find appropriate content that isn't too high, like college level, or too low, like 6th grade brain pop level. So that has been a struggle, but Newsela has been really effective. There's even times where we've copied and pasted from like a high level article and then took chunks out and just showed them like paragraphs, or even edited a whole article. So it's a weakness, but we're working on it. Once we get enough content and enough articles set aside, we can reuse those each year because the standards haven't changed in a while. And then the one that we are having difficulty with, and if you have any ideas on how to help us with this one, throw it in the chat or even share out. But we'd like to gather better data to show that it's effective, other than our own personal stress levels or just small conversations with the students. Sometimes they will tell us what they think we want to hear. And so it's not really honest. Sometimes it can be, but we would like to gather more effective data. So if you have any ideas, let us know, because we'd like to share this out with different teams, and maybe like English could do something similar.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables and things like that.
Yeah, and we do have very different students. Like my students love doing art projects and his do not. They just won't do them.
Yeah, I think the opportunities, we can definitely like incorporate more reading, like she was talking about, a lot more literacy, which is good. And then also, I think it's really hard to quantify, but it's really, really cool that we can not only assess the students every Friday, but then we can also use that as an opportunity to build relationships with them. Cons to assessments on Fridays is it does eat into, what traditionally would be a 20% of the actual like learning time. And so there are some cons with those assessments on Fridays, but we are both of the same mindset where it's like, might as well like take it slow, do it right. They for sure we know that they learn rather than just bulldozing through. So we do lose Friday instructional days, but in our experience, it's been worth it so far. So that's been really good, both building relationships with students, taking their stress levels down, assessing them, getting them a grade. And it's really great to like have them at least have one solid assessment grade every single week. So that's been really helpful.
And it does balance out. So like on their Wednesday, Thursday project that they do, say they don't do it very well. But they understand the content, you'll be able to check that on the quiz. So it does balance it out a little bit more because some students just aren't very artistic or they're not very detail oriented. Maybe they're doing a lab report, but they understand the content. So they're at least going to average a C.
Yeah.
So that is really nice to have that balance.
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely allows like different types of students to thrive. Also, yeah, it does create like a culture of like sharing out, exploring. It also, like for my students, a lot of like competitiveness in between periods and students with how they do on these Friday quizzes. So it's been really, really, there's been a lot of opportunities that have been coming just from being consistent, like keeping it simple. Yeah, I think there are some threats. Like I said, we do lose some instructional time especially on those Fridays. We maybe even lose some instructional time when we're like trying to chunk things in a logical order. Some things have to get omitted to keep it, thematically the same. Creating new content while incorporating this might be difficult as well. Sometimes it just doesn't make, like, that 5E model doesn't fit the content we're wanting. And so, life happens and you just adapt, and maybe you don't have an assessment on Friday, but you also like have an extra day of something. So there's always room to always wiggle room in it.
Yeah, some things, especially in science, they can have their opinions in some things, and then some things are very cut and dry. So there really isn't that time to explore super deep.
Yeah.
It's more of like, well, this is what it is. So that kind of can make it so the model doesn't work as smoothly.
Totally. Yeah, and it is sometimes hard if you're really trying to stick religiously to that 5E. Sometimes it is hard to find the right type of content, the right type of media to teach from. So it is kind of hard to do. But yeah, I mean, it is good because we're not straight lecturing all the time. We're not straight just doing independent work all the time. We're not doing labs all the time. So it really gives predictability, but also mixes it up. Yeah, no one gets bored essentially.
Yeah.
So
we just wanted to open it up for discussion. I also have some student examples as well. But do you see a place for this in higher ed? Does anybody want to share?
I'll share. I'm an instructional designer for online content, and this goes hand in hand with how I try to build my courses, and how I try to assist others to build their courses. The same structure, the repeated themes, and students always know what to expect. There's going to be a journal at the end of the week. There's going to be a discussion post in the middle of the week that they're going to have to reply to the discussion by the end of the week. That keeping that same structure has been really effective in online teaching.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think the redundancy and they know what to expect. I think that is worth
Its weight.
Yeah, or I would just say you essentially don't want to do the same style of lesson every day. So you need enough mix up. But yeah.
And I think during COVID, when we were teaching online, I remember hearing from the kids that there was per class, there was 5 different platforms that they were supposed to go on to each period. And there was burnout and there was confusion, and then they just stopped doing it. And we had the structure each day, even during COVID, and it was pretty smooth. Students understood, the assessment showed that they were doing fairly well, even though they were home, and it was a pretty uncertain time. Just even having that structure, and we didn't have it as structured as we do now, and it was still fairly effective.
Yeah, and I'll even have the random freshman boy that'll just blurt out, "Oh, what are we doing today?" And then basically everyone in the class is like, you fool, we do the same thing every Tuesday. And so I think it's worth giving it a shot at least. And once you have the structure in it, I don't think you'd ever go back. Tyler Watts says, I think especially for online courses, that structure is so important. And so I like the 5E model for consideration there too. And the 1 week module is dividing unit as well. Yeah, so I think the 1 unit chunk
Yeah,
has been helpful for me, at least in my small little brain. Like just themes 1 week at a time is good. And like we have students that like don't show up for a week. And if you don't show up for that week, no worries, we're on something new.
we've
Like,
moved on.
yeah, I'll have students that are like, oh, I wasn't here all last week. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah.
It's a new week. So I think that's been really good.
And we don't have that burnout of content, because I mean, I love like human population stuff and what humans are doing to affect Earth. And I could teach an entire class on that, but I don't think the kids want to hear that. So keeping us in check on timing and realizing that, yeah, we really may love DNA structure and function, but let's try and keep it chunked to
Yeah.
maybe a couple weeks instead of a whole semester.
Yeah. And Alex Emmons says structure but innovation. Yeah, I think it's kind of just keeping it really simple.
Mhm.
Structure for high school at least is super, super important.
Yeah, and since we do teach freshmen and we know that there is a really high rate of freshmen not being successful, having that structure has helped with teaching them how to be a high school level student. In California, they can fail every single class in middle school and still make it to high school. So some of them are coming without any skills of management, time management, content management, anything like that. So this does teach them structures and how to manage their time and, you know, that cause and effect. If I work hard Monday through Thursday, I get to have some free time or meet my needs time. And that's been really effective at helping them. The other question that we wanted to pose was, does a Friday workday pose an issue in schools? At our site, we're able to do it, but I know that's not always the case. So do you think that there is a buy-in for Friday workday, or is it just not possible?
A secondary question to that could be, would a higher ed instructor, is there a difference from having the higher ed instructor saying, hey, go home, I'm in class early, go home and work on your homework?
Mhm.
Or could they keep them in and do the work? I don't know.
Yeah, almost like a tutoring situation where,
Yeah.
you know, on Fridays come into class and we're going to work on catching you up or supporting. Because I mean, I teach biology, but I can help the kids in English. So could you even bring content from other classrooms and do a work day together, maybe like once a month? Oh, okay, maybe like a Thursday. Fridays are generally work days. So yeah, a Monday, Wednesday model. Yeah, it would do that. That's interesting. So having that built-in day. So we traditionally think of school being Monday through Friday, but if you do it Monday through Wednesday, you have that built-in work day. And that, I think it comes down to students being accountable for their own work, whereas freshmen don't really take the accountability of completing work sometimes. So having that structure of this is a work day.
This is a mandatory office hour.
You will be working. Oh, okay. So Friday's being used as an observation time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a credential coach and we do it's a Monday through Thursday, and then Friday is they can observe a different teacher, they can go to a different space and just get some work done for their classes. And they do like that. So it does have, it's not the same as we're using it, but I think there is a space for higher ed to use a work day or some sort. Should I show this to them? So I think we finished a little early, but I wanted to share if you're interested, I did write an article about this on Edutopia, and then I know that these slides will be uploaded somewhere else. But we wanted to show you some student work that they produced after our latest unit. Sorry, trying to unshare. Oh, there we go. So the students, we really want to bump up their understanding into a depth of knowledge that they can explain, because when you can teach something, it shows that you really understand it. And so we didn't want it to be like just a regurgitation of facts. And so we like to have it where I like where if you brought it somewhere, you could teach it, and that shows me that you understand it on a different level. So we just wanted to share some of the student work we have. Students had to research an animal of their choice and create a comic for children, incorporating facts into the comic. And so it has to all be relevant. And we base it off that show Wildcrats, because they do, and we analyzed how they do it in the video or the show. How do you explain something really simple to kids, but it's still high level thinking? And so our students have produced these really amazing comic strips. We try and use a lot of like Avid models, which is kind of old school, but they're bringing it back now. They used it when I was in high school, but I wish I could have scanned these in time. But the students having that space to be creative in science, I don't think has always been the case, because science was, when I was in school, was very much like labs, reports, and then you move on, maybe a dissection of some sort. But having a creative space for students to show their understanding has been really beneficial. And I've noticed that with the NGSS standards now, students their opinion is being incorporated a lot more. Do you agree? Okay. Yeah, so, and then we do little competitions and stuff. So this is kind of like the models that we'll come up with, that students will create. And this is what they would do on that Wednesday, Thursday. So they're taking high level content and making it into more digestible products.
Yeah, and it changes too. So like
Yeah.
1 week could be a model, 1 week could be something else. Like, but I think, yeah, going back, it's all just about consistency. It's about the students knowing what we're doing, while the content, while the actual like lessons will change. Obviously, it's just they know what to expect on each day.
Yeah.
So.
And when we first started doing the like comic strips, they were rough. So this is 4th quarter level. They've done it for 4 quarters now, and the stuff they're coming up with is a lot more high level. It's informative, it's exciting, they like it. Whereas in the past, they maybe like quarter 1, first couple of weeks of school, they thought we were crazy for doing comic strips in class. Are there any questions? You can share the questions page. Oh, yes. So there's a survey at the end. And the links in there. Well, so if anybody is wanting to collaborate or on something, or wants follow-up questions, I put both of our emails there, and you're always welcome to reach out to us. We love collaborating with other schools and getting to know new people in different realms. Yeah.
Other than that, I think that's all we got. So, thank you guys.